Hey everybody, Dave Bazanko here, and welcome to video number 2 from our Triathlon Terms for Beginners series. There's 8 videos in this series, so make sure you check them all out. Today we're going to be talking about general triathlon terms. And I'm going to go through these rather quickly, and I'll put a description on the screen at the bottom as to what they are. Maybe I'll give you a little general story if I can to make a point. But the first thing we're going to talk about is a brick workout. What's a brick workout? Well, that is when you do a run off of the bike immediately to condition your body to what it feels like to run on bricks or hard rubbery legs. Because when you cycle really hard for a long period of time and then start running, your legs are kind of wobbly. And what the intent is to get you conditioned to feeling and experiencing that so that you know what that feels like on race day, and your body knows how to work through that so that you can settle into your normal running pattern. So that's what a brick workout is. Typically, it's a bike followed immediately by a 10 to 20 minute run. You don't have to go longer than 20 minutes. Every expert that I've listened to, 20 minutes is long enough to get that feeling and to get your body into that rhythm now of just, okay, I'm running now and I'm feeling pretty good. So that's what a brick workout is. Next thing we're going to talk about is bonking. Bonking is a running term, which means that you've simply run out of energy on the run and now your body is shutting down. Typically that means that you haven't taken in enough electrolytes or sugar or sodium into your body. You haven't replaced that in enough quantity so that your body can continue to move forward. This happens in marathons particularly, but it happens all the time in the marathon in an Ironman, because you've already done the swim and the bike, and now you're throwing a marathon on top of that. Your body's on a razor's edge, and you have to keep replenishing. You've got to stick to your nutrition plan, otherwise there's a good chance your body's going to bonk. And so bonking just means you did not finish the race because your body shut down. Then we're going to get into a taper. Taper is a term that we use for training. You're going to do, as I've shown you in other videos, periodized training that's going to take you up gradually 5% increases over 4-week blocks of time to get to the point where you can do the distance of the race you're training for. And in the last 2 weeks, you're going to start reducing the volume and tapering into the race day so that you're at peak performance and you're just kind of holding it there. And then all of a sudden you do that big race. So tapering is the last couple of weeks before your race day. So that you're reducing your training volume, so that you're still moving, still feeling really good. The best way to taper, and everybody does this in a way that works for them. You've got to do it by trial and error, but you'll find the best way to taper for yourself so that you feel like you're at the top of your game. You're not sort of overtired. I often find that on rest weeks and when I am tapering, I almost feel like, because I'm not pushing myself so hard, I feel like I'm getting tired, but I know what it is my body is just in this recovery mode, and it's preparing for that fight or flight of race day. So that's what your taper is. That's the end of your training sessions 2 weeks before you head into race day. All right, DNF, pretty simple, did not finish. That means at some point in the race, you did not finish the race. Something happened for you. It could have been a mechanical failure, or it could have been something happened to your body. You did not finish the race. DNS, did not start the race. Drafting's a bit complicated because you can draft in the swim, and you want to draft in the swim. You want to get on the feet of another faster swimmer in front of you, and you want to stay in their slipstream and draft off them so that you're using less energy to swim. That's legal. On the bike, you can't draft on the bike in an Ironman distance race. Actually, you can't draft on the bike in any triathlon distance race with the exception of the Olympic distance or a draft legal specific race. So drafting means that you're within 6 bikes of each other. That's, I think I've got this written down here. I don't have the exact distance, but I know it's 6 bike lengths away from each other. So in a triathlon, in an Ironman, you've got 30 seconds to overtake the guy in front of you or the person in front of you and get in front of him. And then he has to drop back to keep that 6 bike distance. So drafting is not legal in Ironman branded races. It is legal in sprint distance or in draft legal. And they'll tell you they're draft legal races. So if you think of the Olympics, right? We all see them riding in packs. They're working off each other. They're drafting off each other. They're taking turns, breaking the wind so the guys behind use less energy. And you see them rotating through, right? They do that in the Tour de France as well. That's drafting. You see them riding in pelotons. A peloton is a large group of riders. There's another new term I hadn't planned on talking about. But the whole idea of drafting is you cannot do that at the Olympic or at the Ironman level. You can do that in the Olympics, and you can do that in a draft legal race, and the race will tell you it's draft legal. Now, you can't ride your TT bike in a draft legal race, because in a draft legal race, you've got to have your hands near your brakes at all times, right? Your brakes are also your shifters. Well, in a TT bike, your hands are up here in the aero bars and your brakes are down here. So you can't be riding on somebody's wheels and not have access to brakes. So you won't see guys riding their time trial bikes or TT bikes in a draft legal race at all. So hopefully that explains draft legal. Okay, aerodynamics. I just mentioned the aero bars on a bike. So when you are in a time trial bike or a TT bike, the aero bars at the front of the bike are designed to help you be very aerodynamic and split the wind that's coming towards you. Aerodynamic, if you look at any of our racing bikes, TT bikes, you can see they have wider profiles, meaning they're again trying to be aerodynamic moving forward, but they also sort of catch the wind from the side and become a little bit of a sail, and they can help you propel forward easily as well. So there's a lot of advantages to aerodynamics. This is an aerodynamic Ironman racing helmet. I know they've made recent changes to the shape of these helmets, and now they're a little bit shorter on the back end without the point, but this is my fun Ironman racing helmet that I wear on race day, just to remind myself I'm doing something special. I think if I rode this around on my training sessions, people would think there's something a little bit off with me if they don't already. So that's a little bit about aerodynamics. Body marking. So on race day, you're going to get somebody walking around with a big, thick black marker. And what they're going to do is body marking. They're going to write your race number on your arms. They're going to write them on your calf as well. That's so that a couple of reasons. One, so that they'll usually put your numbers on your arms and your age on your calf, so that when I'm a racer and I'm running up behind you, I can see how old you are. And I know whether or not you're in my age group if I'm competing against you. So sometimes that gives the runner behind the opportunity to go, oh, that guy's in my age group, I'm going to pass him. Or you might go, oh, yeah, that guy passed me, but yeah, he's 25 years old. I would expect a 25-year-old is going to pass a 59-year-old, or a 58-year-old. So again, that's what they're writing on the back of your calf is your age, and then your race number is going to go on your arms. Now, you will see in some of the more, I not say professional, but I guess professional races, the pros typically get the stick-on, peel-off numbers, which look very, very professional. In some Ironman races, that's part of your race package. You can choose to get the professional temporary stickers, numbers put onto your arms, or you can just have it put on by a black Sharpie. Either way, it's your choice, but it looks kind of cool when you've got the professional markings on your arms. So that's body marking, and you'll get that the morning of the race as you go to transition. Your timing chip. So how do they keep track of where you are and on the race course and what your official time is? Well, a timing chip is a little band with a tracker on it, a little Velcro band they put around your ankle. So that stays on. It's not in the way of your wetsuit when you take it off. It's not in the way of any of your triathlon gear. But every time you cross a timing mat, whether it's starting the race, finishing the race, passing a checkpoint, it does two things. It gives your official time, but then some of the timing chips now have GPS coordinates built into them, and your family or friends can track your race online on an app so they can see where you are at all times, and they can get a sense of how you're doing in the race, which from a spectator standpoint is kind of cool. All right, that was a timing chip. Timing mat. Well, you're going to cross over these mats on the ground with wires underneath them. That works with your timing chip. You're going to see them specifically at the finish line. You're going to see them at the start line. You're going to see them at a turnaround point on the run or the bike course. And that's all specifically designed to ensure that we know exactly where you are on the race course at all times. and you wear that timing chip. You get it in your race kit the day before the race, and so that you're good to go on race morning. You don't have to check in to get your timing chip. You've already got it, and it goes around your ankle and stays there until you cross the finish line. All right. Pre-race briefing. What is that? Well, that's probably one of the more important things that you should pay attention to. Every race has a pre-race briefing, and sometimes they're held online, but most times they're held in person. And that's where they're going to not only explain to you the race course itself, they're going to explain if there's any weather conditions that you should be aware of, if it's going to be super hot and they're concerned that people are going to be dehydrated, suffer from heat stroke. They're going to talk about what strategies they've put in place to help athletes who are suffering from weather conditions that might impact their race day. So it's really important, do not skip the race briefing. Every race is different because the environment changes at every race. So even if you've gone to the same race 5 times over, make sure you go to the pre-race briefing because you want to know if there's been any changes. I know I've done Ironman Muskoka. I'm doing it for the 5th time this year. And on the 3rd time I did the race, a week before they did that race, and it was about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, the local community decided to start tearing up some roads as part of their annual road construction. And they had the first part of tearing up pavement is sort of dimpling the pavement, whatever that scraping is. And they did a section of the bike course, they scraped it. And it was like the last 5 kilometers to go before we got off the bike. And you literally had to slow your bike right down to a crawl to get through that so you didn't damage your bike. Now, it was really good to know that because I wasn't caught off guard when it happened, and it sucked, but it's just one of those things that pops up that you've got to deal with. So going to the race briefing is super, super, super important. It's going to be maybe a little bit overwhelming for the first couple times you do it, but just pay attention, listen to the details, and don't be afraid to ask questions, okay? So that's what the race briefing is. Water quality. I'm often involved when I'm a race director in doing water quality testing. What that simply means is I'll go out the day before the race. I will take a water sample from about maybe a meter down into the water, or at least an arm's length down into the water, and I'll get a vial of sample of water. I'll take it to a testing lab, and we're checking for E. coli. E. coli is bacteria in the water that's going to make you feel sick. And typically after a big rainstorm is when you get a lot of E. coli in the water because things get sort of washed in through the rainstorm systems, the water systems of the city you're in, and sometimes it dumps out into the water or the body of water you're going to be swimming in. So it would cause E. coli counts to be a little bit higher. So if you watch the Olympics, you know that they're always checking for water quality, especially at some of the last, like Paris and Rio had very, very poor water quality for the triathletes. I wouldn't have gotten that water. There's no way in heck I would have gotten that water. So that's what water quality testing is for, and we're really pretty good about making sure that we keep our athletes safe. So that's what water quality testing is, and you'll find out what the water quality testing results are during the race briefing if there's an issue to be worried about. Okay, swim in. Well, when you're in a race, you start at the water's edge, but when you come out of the water, you have to make your way from the water's edge to transition. And you're going to see, and they cover this in the race briefing as well, where is the swim in? That's where you're coming from the water into transition, because as you move around the race course, you might have 2 transition zones. It's just the details of how am I getting into T1 and T2 and how am I getting out. So there'll be a sign that says swim in. That is how you get into the transition zone from your swim exit. So you're going to exit the water, and that usually there'll be a sign saying swim exit. You come out of the swim exit out of the water, and you go into into T1, swim in. Now, bike in and out. So let's say you're in transition now. You're in T1. T1 stands for transition 1. So you're in T1, you've come out of the water, you've gotten onto your bike, but just because you came into transition this way, you're going to get on your bike, you might be heading out of transition this way, you could be going that way, you could be going this way. So you need to orient yourself, where's your bike when you come out of the swim, and then where am I leaving from my bike, right? That's really, really important. So you have to orient yourself and understand where the bike out is, because now there are races where you've got 2 different transition zones. There'll be a bike out, and maybe it's a point-to-point race, and you'll have a bike in somewhere else. If it's coming back to the same transition to the same gathering spot, then you'll have a bike out and you'll have a bike in. And you just have to be aware of where those exits and entry points are. And then the same thing with run out. So when you get into T2 and you've dropped your bike and now you've got your run kit on, you're going to be leaving transition 2 out of the run exit. You'll see the big sign and you'll have to know where that is just by going to the race briefing. But now once you know where the run exit is, you're not coming back into transition again. You're going to finish up on the finish line. And the finish line is called the finish chute. So that's where it starts to become carpet. And it's really important that you don't run down the finish chute too early like I did when I was in Ironman Louisville, or if you haven't done the full race and you haven't paid attention in the race briefing like I didn't do, I almost ran across the finish line because I didn't know it was I didn't pay attention to know it was a 2-loop race. I thought it was done in my first loop and I almost disqualified myself. So pay attention in the race briefing. All right, medical tents. So there are medical tents at the finish line. There are medical tents periodically throughout the run course. Probably one in the middle of the bike course as well. This is where if you need medical aid, there are people there to help you. And there are also officials on the course who are also paying attention to what's going on. But there's large, especially in Ironman, there's large sections of the course, on the bike course specifically, where you're on your own, you and the other racers. And we got stuck behind a guy pulling a huge cigar boat in Ironman Louisville. And it was like, this is ridiculous, because one of the rules of the race is you can't cross the center line. That's an immediate disqualification. But when there's a guy pulling a cigar boat, how he got on the highway or the road that we were using, I have no idea. But there he was, and there's 20 of us packed up behind him going, what do we do? And we made the executive decision to go around and cross the center line. And that was a big deal, because none of us knew if we were going to get disqualified, if they were watching and paying attention. As it turns out, yeah, that wasn't an issue. We got around this guy and off we went. He shouldn't have been there in the first place. But you got to make a split decision. But there are medical tents sporadically placed throughout the course, and they're there to help you in case you have a medical emergency. Okay, what is an age group athlete? Well, an age group athlete is the terminology that we use for everybody on the race course who's not a professional. And they have awards for all their various age groups. The age groups normally go by increments of 5 years. So just in round numbers, say 20 to 25, 26 to 30, 31 to 35, and so on and so forth. And the fun thing about that is, as you go through, when you come into a new age group, so let's say like this year is actually going to be the hardest year for me to race, because I'll be technically in my 59th year racing at Ironman Muskoka, but there'll be guys there that are technically in their 56th year, so they're technically 4 years younger than me that I'm competing against. I'm the oldest guy now in my age category. If I do the race again next year, now I'm playing with the 60-year-olds, and I've got the advantage of youth on my side. So that's what an age group athlete is. It just denotes or dictates which age group bucket you fit into, and you're not a pro. All right. And then the last thing is tri-suit. So you're going to hear the terminology tri-suit a lot. A triathlon suit is not the same as cycling shorts. This is a big mistake that a lot of newbies make. They go out and they train in their riding shorts, which has a bigger chamois. The chamois is the cushioning in the crotch of your shorts that is meant to make the sitting in the saddle for long periods of time a little more tolerable. But in a cycling, like a true road bike cycling short, that chamois is bigger, and that chamois has more padding, and you don't want to be running in that. The triathlon suit has a smaller, thinner chamois, works perfectly fine for what it's meant to do, but you don't even feel it's there when you're running. So when you're going out to buy any kit, any race gear to train in or to race in, make sure you're getting triathlon-specific equipment, not cycling equipment, because those are two different things. So that's the end of the first section where we talked about general terms. In the next video, which is going to be right here, we're going to talk about swimming terminology. See you in that video.